welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to share 7 tips for shooting your first concert. The first tip is to figure out what the photo policy is. So usually standard photo policy is first 3 from the pit, no flash, and then the pit is kind of that general area between like where the stage is and the rail that separates the audience from the stage. So usually at medium to large size venues and at festivals, they'll kind of have a little pit where photographers can go and shoot. But the photo policy is usually also dependent on the artist or artist management. Sometimes it's 2 songs, and then once it was 4 songs as well. And then where you're shooting from can also depend on the venue. Sometimes at super big venues, so like arenas and stadiums, you're restricted to shoot from either front of house or the soundboard. So I actually haven't shot an arena or a stadium yet, so this is mostly what I've heard from other photographers who have shot those. And then additionally, you can also usually check with publicists or with on-site security whether you're able to continue shooting after the first 3 songs. So usually the photo policy, again, is first 3 songs from the pit only, but sometimes you're able to shoot from the crowd, whether it's during the first 3 songs or after the first 3. And also, I'm not sure if this is just a San Francisco venue thing, but a lot of venues that I've been to have had a balcony or a little mezzanine area, like an upper level, where usually I've been allowed to go. So usually I'll get there early, I'll check with security, see if I'm able to shoot there either during first 3 or after first 3, and then I'll kind of make my plans for those first 3 songs depending on what security allows. So I would definitely recommend checking because obviously you want to be respectful of the artist, you want to be respectful of the venue, just make sure that you have permission to shoot where you're shooting. So a lot of these tips are basically just making sure that you have all the correct information on hand. The next thing that I'd recommend doing is asking your publicist or point of contact for set times. So usually when I've been sent set times, it includes when doors open, when the opener or openers get on, and then when the headliner gets on. Usually security will let you into the pit 5 minutes or so before the next artist goes on, so this is true for each opener and for the headliner as well. Usually I'll try to make my way to the pit about 5 or 10 minutes before an artist is slated to go on, just to know that I'm in the right area and to make sure that I don't miss the first songs, because obviously there's only 3 songs, so you really got to make the most of the time that you have allocated. This is why set times are super important, because you know when to show up and then you can know when to kind of make your way to the pit to be waiting. And then my next tip is to show up 30 minutes early. The reason that I recommend 30 minutes specifically is because I feel like it's a good buffer time. It gives you enough time to sort out any issues. Sometimes I've showed up 10 to 15 minutes before and it's been fine, but once I did show up and they didn't have my credentials, so I missed the first of the 3 songs, which obviously isn't great. So I think that 30 minutes is kind of a good window of time to make sure that you have enough time to get sorted if any issues arise. Depending on the size of the venue, whether or not there's a box office, and what the rules are for picking up credentials on site, you may also have to wait in line to pick up your ticket and photo pass. So that's another reason that it's really good to show up 30 minutes ahead of time, because you don't want to be stuck in line as the opener or the headliner is getting on. And then even if you don't run into any issues, I think it's also great to show up 30 minutes early, especially if it's my first time shooting at a venue. I like to just go in early, walk around, kind of get the lay of the land, figure out where I want to shoot. If you take away anything from this video at all, I would say that this tip is probably one of the most important, and it was something that I was not the best at doing when I was first starting out as a concert photographer. And that's to ask for a DOS or a day of show contact. So usually you'll ask your publicist for a DOS contact, and they'll give you the phone number of either a TM or someone on the artist team. And this is super, super important to make sure that you get a phone number, because the whole point of having a DOS contact is if you run into any issues on site, you want to be able to immediately contact someone to have them sort you out. So your DOS contact is usually the TM or tour manager or someone on the artist team, but in some cases for me it's been someone on the artist relations team. So this is usually like a dedicated AR person or someone who works for the venue and not someone who works for the artist directly. I don't know what this says about the music industry, but I want to say that about 50% of the times that I've gone to pick up my credentials for press, something has gone wrong. Either I've only had a ticket, I haven't had a photo pass, I haven't been able to bring in my gear, or they don't have anything under my name at all. So that's why it's so critical to have a DOS contact, because issues will inevitably arise. So it's just good to make sure that you're prepared. You have a point of contact that you can either contact directly or that you can let the venue know so that the venue is able to reach out and get in touch with them. Something else that can be super helpful in line with issues at the box office or picking up credentials is having screenshots of your approval or email thread with the publicist, basically saying, hey, I'm approved to shoot the show. So that way, even if you do run into any issues at the box office, it kind of gives you more legitimacy and it provides a paper trail so that they know who to contact, even if you aren't able to get a hold of your contact. And then next tip is to wear all black. So this is sometimes called stage blacks, but usually you want to dress in either all black or as dark colors as possible. This is so that you aren't distracting either the artist or the audience, because venues are super dark, so it just helps you to blend in whether you're in the pit, you're on stage or you're backstage. It just kind of makes it so that you're as unobtrusive as possible. And then my next tip is to make sure to bring your photo ID. This is super important because you're going to need it to either pick up your credentials at the box office or so that they can check your ID to check your name off of the guest list if it's a smaller venue. And this is also important, especially if you're shooting at a 21 up venue. So this happened earlier this year and I still feel so bad about this. I lost my ID and my friend had gotten me a ticket to go see this show, but because it was a 21 up venue and because I think that they want to card everyone under like 30 or 35, and as you can tell, I look under 35, I was not able to get into the venue. So even if you have your credentials sorted, it's super important to make sure you have your ID so that you can get into the venue if it's age restricted, like 18 plus or 21 plus. And my last tip, and something that's super important, whether it's for concert photography or attending a concert in general, is to wear earplugs. Concerts are really, really, really loud, especially if you're in the pit. The ones that I use and personally recommend to everyone who asks are the Loops earplugs. So I have them in my Amazon storefront. I will try to remember to link them in the description of the video, but honestly, just any good pair of concert earplugs, it's really great, especially because when you're in the pit, I think they're called like the subs are pointing right at you, so it's like super, super, super loud, like especially if you're to like the very sides of the stage in the pit. You literally walk past and it feels like your whole body is shaking. So definitely recommend getting earplugs to protect your hearing. So these are 7 tips that I have if you're shooting your first concert. Feel free to let me know if you have any questions in the comment section down below and I'll try to answer them as soon as I can. And don't forget to subscribe to see part 2 where I'll be sharing 7 tips for shooting your first music festival.